Just wanted to come on and share my testimony. I'm going to be breaking it up in several different videos because it is quite long. But um, it basically all started off with my brother passing away unexpectedly, and then me surrendering myself in prayer. And then I ended up having a dream that kind of kicked it all off. And at the time, I didn't realize what it meant. And then after that, 6 months later, I started having visions and words spoken in the liminal state. And it was so intense that eventually I ended up seeking counsel with two different pastors with different denominations. And they both confirmed that I was experiencing some type of illumination or revelation. So, yeah, if you just stick around, subscribe, and like, I would appreciate it. And drop a comment below if you've had any experiences as well. So thank you.
So, like I said before, my brother passed away. I prayed and I surrendered. And next thing you know, I have a dream, which was on 2/5/25. So it was February 5th, 2025. I was in the dream standing on a dock between land and sea. And it was between night and day. It was right at sunset. And when I looked over at the horizon, I saw 8.5 hovering above the water, and it was in red. And I even thought to myself in the dream, why am I seeing a number hovering over the ocean? And at that moment, I felt a presence, and I turned around, and I saw these 7 bluish white orbs veiled in a cloud, and they were like a cluster. They were like grouped together. They were separate, but they were also moving as a unit. And it had this arcing of electricity going between the orbs. And I was only able to look at it for like maybe 3 seconds before a bolt of lightning came out. And then it struck me directly in the forehead. And I remember I was paralyzed and I fell face down. And before I hit the wooden dock, that was the last thing I saw, I woke up. And I remember feeling a vibration, like a residual vibration. And it was so striking that I wrote it down. And I never write down my dreams, but obviously I was compelled to. So at the time, I didn't know what it meant. I was thinking it was 8.5 in magnitude. I'm in California in the Bay Area. So yeah, I was thinking maybe this is a warning. So I just wrote it down. And then it wasn't until 6 months later, funny enough, around the same time, like a date, the 8/4, the night of 8/4, on August 4th, I started having visions. And I didn't even realize this until like later, that I was like, wow, that's around the same time that I saw, that's around the same time with that number. And in the vision, I saw a destroyer ship cutting across the water. And next thing you know, it was like a bird's eye view. And then the next thing I saw was an explosion that happened over the water, but I couldn't see what was hit. So I'm assuming it was a small boat. I couldn't see it. I just saw a fireball. And then I kind of snapped out of it and I wrote it down as well. And then the next night I had another vision, and this time it was like an ancient setting. It felt ancient. It felt biblical to me. Like the people looked like biblical attire. They were wearing like cream linen, standing in line. And I was in the line in this vision as like a silent witness. And it was very immersive. And I saw this young man who's good looking, brown hair, brown eyes. He kind of turned around, looked back at the line, but he couldn't see me. And he was looking up and around. And then I heard a word. I heard ring. That was the first time I heard an actual word being spoken. And then the next night, I didn't get a vision, but I heard words spoken, and they were pretty fast. It was one right after the other. It was 45 days, lamb, and lunch. And of course, my eyes popped open because I was like, what's happening in 45 days? It kind of spooked me. So I ended up looking at the calendar, and it was the 21st of September. So I was like, well, what's happening on this date? So I saw there was the International Day of Peace, but then I saw a partial solar eclipse over New Zealand and Antarctica. So I figured as maybe something pointing with the sky. I had that feeling. I just didn't know what it was. And, I went to bed, and then it was the next day I started looking at September sky events, and I saw a picture of the Pleiades. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, that looked a lot like my dream that I had. So I had a thought, because everything felt biblical with the previous message. I was like, does the Bible mention anything about the Pleiades? And I found there was 3 verses, but one of them really stood out to me. It was Amos 5:8, because it was the reversal of the 8:5. So I started reading that, and it said, seek him that maketh the 7 stars in Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, and maketh the day dark with night, that calleth for the waters of the sea, and pour them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. Well, yeah, that was pretty weird, because it was almost like I was standing in that dream, and it mentions the opposites and the mirrors. It talks about the shadow of death into the morning, and then making the day dark with night. It's like a solar eclipse. So I was a little bit weirded out by that, but I was also fascinated. I ended up calling my dad too, because I was like telling him about all this stuff and my words being spoken, and he ended up telling me that there's a 45-day biblical verse about the abomination of desolation for Book of Daniel. And then he was talking about the marriage supper of the Lamb, and like the signet ring as being like a seal covenant. I didn't know what he was talking about, because I never read the Bible, but it felt like I was a messenger and he was the interpreter. And that's kind of how my whole story goes, is that I get the messages, like they're fragmented sometimes, and then he kind of interprets it, but I do get full-on sentences as time goes on, and I have very vivid dreams and visions going forward. So yeah, for this first part, it's very interesting that the night sky also lines up on the 5th of February too with the dream, because on the 5th of February 2025, the moon was actually in Taurus that night that I had this dream, which is where the Pleiades is located. And also it was a half moon. It was called the first quarter half moon, so it was half dark, half light. And then it was on a Wednesday, which is like a middle of the week, a threshold. And then it was on the 4th day of creation, which is when the sun, moon, and stars were created. So I found that really interesting, that all of that kind of aligned with no prior knowledge, had no, interest in the sky events, any of that stuff, or the Bible, but everything kind of seemed to line up. And it wasn't until recent that I also saw that 8/5/26 lines up with everything as well. So if you look at 8/5/26, it talks of a last quarter moon, so now it's going dark, and that's a half moon as well. And it's the moon's in the Taurus constellation again. It's on a Wednesday, and that's exactly 18 months from the first dream that I had. So I don't know if this is the 8/5 that it's talking about. I'm not sure if it's a personal revelation. I'm not sure what it means, but I was told to speak this and my experience, my testimony. So that's what I'm doing. Going forward, I'm going to be dropping more videos. So if you have any similar, messages, or if you've had anything that's been unusual, any dreams, visions, words spoken, definitely write it in the comments. I'd be happy to check it out, and we can definitely talk about it. But also do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. I definitely like to hear from you. I'm just out here giving my testimony and sharing it with you all. And thanks for watching.